Ladies and gentlemen, we are watching some footages as President Abdel Fattah Sisi arrived in Iraq, starting an official visit. The official visit is going to witness a tripartite summit, which is going to gather President Abdel Fattah Sisi, the head of the Iraqi government, Mustafa al-Kadhimi, and the Jordanian King Abdullah II on the Iraqi soil. The summit is going to tackle a number of issues of mutual concern separately among the leaders, and there is going to be a tripartite summit gathering the three Arab leaders. They are going to discuss a number of topics, regional, national, and international. On top of the agenda is going to be the national security of the Arab region. This is going to be an emergent summit gathering President Abdel Fattah Sisi, Jordanian King Abdullah II, and the head of the Iraqi government, Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi. The summit was a continuation, or is rather a continuation, of what was agreed upon in the last summit, which gathered the three Arab leaders in August 2020. The three Arab leaders are going to discuss economic investment cooperation in addition to other important topics. Here we are watching the arrival of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in Iraq to participate in the tripartite summit. A number of regional, security, economic, trade, and investment issues are going to be discussed. It was announced before that the summit is going to take place to discuss these number of issues based on what was agreed upon in the last meeting, which gathered the three leaders few months ago. They are also going to discuss a number of political issues, a number of ways to settle all the disputes in the Arab nation, particularly what's going on in Libya and the Palestinian cause. In their latest summit in August, the three Arab leaders agreed to continue consultations regarding a number of vital issues of the Middle East and also on the international arenas. These are the footages from Iraq where we are watching the arrival of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in an official summit, in an official visit, which is going to include a number of meetings with high-ranking officials from the Iraqi side. In addition to the tripartite meeting, which is going to gather President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Jordanian King Abdullah II, and Mustafa al-Kadhimi, the Iraqi Prime Minister. The president is accompanied by a high-ranking delegation. There are going to be a number of meetings gathering the three leaders and also the delegations coming from the three countries: the host, Iraq, and the Egyptian and Jordanian leaders. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said it more than once and in a number of occasions that the joint Arab action is one of the top priorities of Egypt's foreign policy, and that the national security of the Arab region in general or at large is part and parcel of Egypt's national security. He also urged all Arab leaders to continue with consultations and negotiations to boost economic and investment cooperation for the best interest of all Arab peoples. Here is President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi arriving in Iraq to participate in the tripartite Arab summit. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi arrived in Iraq and he was received by his Iraqi counterpart Barham Saleh. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi arrived leading a high-ranking Egyptian delegation, and he is going to participate in the tripartite summit, which is going to gather the president and the Jordanian king, in addition to Mustafa al-Kadhimi, the Iraqi prime minister, and above all Barham Saleh, the Iraqi president. Here we are watching the official reception of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi as he arrived in the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. The official summit is going to take place later in the day and is going to discuss a number of important topics, whether the cooperation in the military, economic, investment, trade, or national security fields. This is the third summit which is going to gather the three Arab leaders. The latest, it was in August. There were two other tripartite summits, first in Egypt, second in Jordan, and this time it's in Iraq. It was postponed from March to June, but the agenda of talks is the same: to build on what was agreed upon before. Analysts said that a big or a mega project is going to be discussed, gathering Egypt, Jordan, and Iraq. A number of memos of understanding are going to be signed, particularly in the economic and investment fields among the three Arab states. It's going to be a strategic project to achieve a number of economic results for the best interest of the three peoples. Ladies and gentlemen, we were watching the arrival of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in Iraq as he was received by Iraqi President Barham Saleh. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is going to participate in a tripartite summit, and it's going to gather the president or the head of a state with Jordanian King Abdullah II and Mustafa al-Kadhimi, the Iraqi prime minister. They are going to discuss a number of issues regarding the economic, trade and investment cooperation, in addition to a number of other issues of mutual interest. They are going to discuss the security issues, the Arab national security, and on top of the agenda is going to also tackle the joint Arab action. These were some of the footages, and analysts said that this summit is going to build on what was achieved in other two previous summits. The latest, it was in August 2020, and this summit was due to take place in March, but it was postponed due to some reasons by then. The head of the state is accompanied by a high-ranking delegation, and a number of meetings are going to take place on the ground, whether on the top level between the president and the Iraqi prime minister and also the Jordanian king, but also on the sidelines of the summit. The delegations of the three countries are going to meet to discuss a number of other issues and to implement what's going to be agreed upon. Mega strategic project is going to be discussed to realize the best economic revenues and interests of the three peoples. They are going to exchange expertise in several domains and how to realize these results on the ground. Egypt said it more than once that it's ready to realize joint Arab action on the ground and to implement the economic forum experienced in many of the Arab nations, particularly after the IMF released a report recently hailing the strength of the Egyptian economy, especially in dealing with the repercussions, the negative repercussions of COVID-19. Here we are watching President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received already in Iraq by his Iraqi counterpart, and they are starting some talks before going to the tripartite summit, which is going to gather with them the Jordanian king later in the day. As we said, this is going to be the third summit to gather the three Arab leaders to continue with discussions and consultations regarding the strategic mega project and other issues on the agenda of talks. The three Arab leaders of Egypt, Jordan, and Iraq are going to discuss a strategic mega project which is going to witness tripartite cooperation among the three Arab nations. الشام الجديد, or this new area, is going to be based on economic cooperation. It's going to realize economic integration among the three countries. Of course, when it comes to Iraq, Iraq is very rich in oil, so it's going to be transported to Jordan through the oil pipeline, and to Egypt through Al-Aqaba harbor. And on the other hand, Iraq is going to be supplied with electric power. Egyptian human resources are going to play such a big role. We are going to convey our experience and our expertise and our personnel to participate and to share based on the big experience of Egypt in this regard. The project is going also to attract investments to Iraq, and it's going to be for the best interest of the three peoples. It's not a new idea. It was discussed before in the other tripartite summits which took place before among the three leaders. There were many statements which were released by Mustafa al-Kadhimi, the Iraqi Prime Minister, expressing his happiness to receive the head of state, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and the Jordanian King to participate in this summit on the Iraqi soil. The agreements which are going to be signed, the memos which are going to be signed, is going to secure strategic partnership, long-term strategic partnership among the three countries. It's going to open new horizons for trade exchange and boost tripartite cooperation in different domains. Egypt enjoys strategic relations with different states, particularly the Arab states, particularly the Arab allies, the Arab brotherly nations. There are strategic ties that bind Egypt and Jordan, Egypt and Iraq, and these strategic ties are going to be mirrored on the ground, holding mega projects, realizing economic integration, this is a new attempt to create an Arab entity with joint interests to boost economic cooperation and to be one hand facing different challenges facing the Middle East region in general. The idea is not a new one, but its implementation needs a lot of agreements, a lot of cooperation, of negotiations and consultations to guarantee the success of the project. The three leaders are going to agree upon holding industrial zones, joint industrial zones, and to facilitate all the trade agreements to guarantee that on the ground all these steps are not going to face any obstacles on the way. The private sector is going to have a big part, and Egypt, as I said it more than once in many occasions, that the Iraqi and Jordanian sides can benefit from the Egyptian expertise in such economic fields and domains, based on the success of the Egyptian experience in implementing the economic reform, and also based on the reports which were released more than once by international economic entities hailing the Egyptian economic performance and realizing this balance between protecting the socially low brackets and in the same time continuing with building mega projects in different domains. We were watching some footages of the arrival of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to the Iraqi capital Baghdad, as he was received by his Iraqi counterpart, and later in the day the three Arab leaders, the head of state, the Iraqi prime minister, and of course the Jordanian King Abdullah II, they are going to hold this tripartite summit to discuss a number of issues and to agree upon a number of steps to be taken to realize on the ground a strategic mega project for the best interest of the three peoples. The project is going to benefit the three peoples, and it's going also to witness an integration joint Arab work. It's going to realize on the ground many results. The agenda of talks is busy. The agenda of talks is going to tackle political, economic, business, trade, investment, cooperation, ways to boost mutual ties, how to boost Arab action, how to maintain the Arab national security. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said it in many occasions that the national Arab security is part and parcel of Egypt Arab security, and vice versa. The three leaders, when they met before in two previous times, the latest, it was in August, said in the press conferences and the statements released after their summit that the three countries are enjoying joint visions regarding a number of issues, whether regional or international. The president is going also to have a number of activities on the sidelines of the summit, which is going to take place later in the day. And on Mal TV International, we are going to follow minute by minute all the presidential activities in the Iraqi capital, Baghdad, and his meetings with senior officials from the two Arab countries, whether Baghdad, whether Iraq or Jordan. The previous two summits took place, one here in Egypt and the second it was in Jordan, and this is the third summit, which was due to take place in March 2021, but it was postponed to June. Many media reports were speaking about this anticipated and long-awaited summit among the three leaders, who agreed to continue with more consultations and with more talks regarding a number of issues. The three leaders are going also to discuss a number of regional and Arab issues, particularly with the Libyan and Palestinian fights. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said it also in many occasions that Egypt enjoys strategic ties that are binding Egypt with Iraq and Jordan and a number of Arab brotherly allies, and these strategic ties are reflected on the ground with achieving cooperation in all domains, whether military, with joint military maneuvers, for example, with high committees headed or presided by whether Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli or a number of ministers according to their specialities, whether it's military, whether it's economy, it's investment, it's planning. And Egypt is all the time ready to transport its experiences in all domains for the best interests of the Arab peoples. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the arrival of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in Iraq to participate in a tripartite summit, which is going to gather the President, Iraqi Prime Minister Al-Kadhimi, and Jordanian King Abdullah II. On Nile TV International, we are going to follow minute by minute all the presidential activities which are going to take place there and the results of the tripartite summit. Thanks for watching.